everybody. It's nice to see you. Would you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? You're good. You're already up. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Thank you very much. All right. Our first order of business, I know our town clerk emailed everybody the minutes. I'd like, if everybody's had a chance to read them, can I have a motion to approve them?
I'll make that motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Great, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. The minutes are approved from the last meeting. Our next order of business is the town supervisor's report, so let me go through my list. I think I can get through this quickly. First, I'd like to, as I was, for the record, make sure everybody knows that the town board members have received, we send some reports via email, so we're not so paper crazy. The abstracts for the month of June, the building department's report, all the deposits for the general and the highway fund, and the escrow report for the month of June. So everybody should have all that. Anybody that doesn't have it, I'll make sure you do, but I think you've got that.
Got that today, or yesterday.
Yeah, I sent it out on the 15th, but I sent it to Steve Frazier twice, and luckily Karina called me, so we were talking.
Where's the agenda? She's like, it's there. I'm like,
I hit Frazier twice, I apologize. But anyway, so everybody's gotten all their numbers for the month. The cash flow report is in the front envelope for the door, in the door. We have a 97% of our income for the month of June, and we're at 85% of our budgeted expenditures. So we've had some ups and downs this year. We've gone over 100, below 100, and we're vacillating. I mean, we've got some changes going on. We have, the mortgage taxes are much lower than they were last year. So we're watching our expenses greatly. Nobody has overtime unless it's pre-approved. Everybody's really on it as far as, making sure that they're not spending without getting pre-approval, and it's all in the budget. So I think they're doing a very good job in expenses and will probably come in. They'll probably have a good July, and I think the numbers will change. But so far, that we're doing okay. I'd like to see. Of course, last year we had a few extra things. We got that $35,000 from the previous storm, the storm. We got some extra cash last year that we won't have this year, but still I worry about the revenue every day. And we're working on our houses, which I will talk about in my general updates. But before I do that, I wanted to mention to the town board members, all of you were given the cash handling procedures for the recreation department.
Yes.
Now, the thought with this is if you could take it home and read it for the August meeting. I mentioned it to you a month or so ago. We actually put it in practice as a draft, as a tentative thing, and this is what we're doing now. So, and it works. So we tested it, and we are testing it, and basically the gist of it is we've taken all the recreation cash and taken it from the town clerk's office into the finance office, which frees up her time greatly because they deal with a lot of nickels, dimes, and quarters that have to be counted. And then all the reporting and everything and the reconciliation of the bank accounts is done very quick. It's done a little quicker in the finance area because there aren't any interruptions from residents, which is the town clerk's first priority. It's a good system, but if you could look at it, if you have suggestions or changes, we're going to vote on it in August, and then we'll put it into our policy manual, and then we'll post it on the web and everything. But I think it's a really strong policy for us.
It's nice that it's already tested.
Yeah, and we
That's a
did
big
tweak it
plus.
a little when we found out, this would work better that way, but it's
Good way to
good.
do it.
And it keeps us, the money comes in the front door and goes right to the bank, so, which is great. Next up on my list is our cybersecurity. I did want to mention this because this is important, and it's important for those residents that watch this from home because this was an investment the town made last year. So we're not in the same position as this other town, but there was a town in Dutchess County that was hacked where ransom was demanded, and it was a relatively small town, and it was the first one in Dutchess County. And it can happen. But I discussed it with Glenn Sullivan, who is president of Sullivan Data, and that's the company that this board hired last year when we decided to go the extra mile and put them on retainer and spend a lot more money than the town had ever spent on IT before. So I just thought I'd read so that the public could hear that I think their investment that they allowed us to make, it was a really good one. And I'll quote what Glenn Sullivan got back to me in an email with. Evidently what happened to that small town was that instead of using VPNs for remote access, he had left, the IT person there, had left the RDP ports open in the firewall for remote access. That's how they got in, and then they brute forced the server password because there was no limitation set on the number of password tries before lockout, and the password was probably something super simple. So if they had good backups by restoring over the encrypted and damaged files, and I understand this is Chinese to some people, but it is, luckily they know what they're doing. But they did not have good backups. They had a local backup device attached to the server like Union Bell used to, using the free Windows backup software and no offsite backup storage. So I wanted to mention everybody that we are not in that situation anymore. We have moved all of our servers off-site. We are really protected. We've got all the proper firewalls in. The only thing that we can't protect ourselves against, and neither can any other organization, is that social engineering and the phishing attacks that occur when somebody sends in an email or somebody goes out and clicks on something that they shouldn't click on. So to that end, I want you all to know, our IT company, Sullivan Data, conducted a social engineering phishing attack test on all of our employees without telling them. And we had a training session in January, which was don't open certain emails, don't do this, don't do that. And so they sent out one of those sleuth emails to try to catch, and then they send a report to me to tell me what the results were. And they did that in June, and it was really interesting because I said, well, how'd we do? One person opened from their mobile phone into the second link, like opened the email and looked at it and then clicked on that. That person was not here for the January training. That person is a new employee. 100% of the rest of our employees ignored it and did not. So they were thrilled. They said, wow, your team did great. So I think if we can keep that up and keep reminding people, we've done a good job with cybersecurity
And train new people.
And train, yeah, she's the first one in the next training session.
Okay.
But I think people should be pleased with that. So far we're not getting wood that, that was a great investment and everybody should be happy with it. I'm thrilled because, what trouble that town's going through to try to recreate everything. We're also looking at our insurance coverage with cybersecurity, of which we have certain liability, we have certain coverage and other things.
Yeah.
If we felt like we could get more, you can always buy more insurance.
Yeah.
I think we're covered well, but if we want to talk about it when we do our insurance reviews, it's something we're going to be looking at. Okay. Route 9 and Route 21. So I want to remind everybody that last year, if you guys have seen the Dutchess County announcement about our circle, we had requested of Dutchess County that they change that circle because there were so many close near misses because everybody was emulating that circle behavior over in LaGrange, and they're no longer in our circle. They used to hesitate and stop for the people coming down. They were not doing that anymore. There were probably 30 near misses a day. So we did approach them and say, we'd like to talk to you about the safety and, of course, the aesthetics. They had those heavy-duty poles on the outside. So in the middle of the night, if it was dark, if somebody came home and kind of skimmed close to that circle, you were going to get killed by your car was going to get bent by all of those poles being on the periphery instead of maybe in the center of the circle. So there were a lot of issues with it. They did a thorough analysis. They discussed it with their engineer, their traffic engineer. They reviewed the last many years of data. They gave the town board here 2 designs, and then we picked what we thought was the safest of the 2. And they are building that now, and that project should be finished in mid-August. I just wanted everybody to kind of review it because we started that process a year ago. And some people I see on Facebook and stuff are saying, where did that come from? Why are they doing that? It's been here since the 30s. But it really was a safety issue, so it's important that, and we're happy that they're doing it. And it should be done in mid-August, which is good for us. General updates. I think the MS4 is a big general update that we're going to I just want to make sure you know about. We turned in, and not me, George Kolb and Tom Harvey turned in a notebook this big. We were audited for the first time. And then they had to turn in, and I'll tell you, our stormwater management plan hadn't been completed under the previous engineer. Apparently it was still drafted, it was in draft form. So Tom Harvey and George, and I think Tom did a lot of this part, George would say, finished our stormwater management program, which is this thick, and had to be turned in. It's got maps and everything. But the good news is that out of this book, a piece this size went to George and our highway department and our parks department, and it's pollution prevention, good housekeeping for municipal operations, and it's a guidance document. It's great. I thought this was actually good.
That's from who?
Well, our guys had to put it together and
Okay.
submit it as part of our stormwater management program. But it's, there's a piece in here, septic system management checklist. There's some really, I didn't even know from, as a homeowner, that you had to do certain things annually and all that. Maybe you guys did.
Up it every 3
You
to 4
guys,
years.
I knew you'd know that. I did not know that.
Well, you're putting in every day, you gotta pump it sometime.
Well, it says every year here, but you're probably, you're probably more realistic. But anyway, this is going to be on our website. All of our management team will have it that work with stormwater-related things. If anybody wants to look at it to see if you can get anything useful out of it, it's a good document. But they put in a huge effort, and we're waiting for the results of our audit.
Good. Thank you for doing all that
Yeah.
extensive
Really
detail.
did
That was
nice work.
a huge project.
Yeah, it really was, and I think George is hoping they don't talk to him again for 10 years. Updates on our town properties. Now, number 2, Timor Park Road is almost finished. They installed the new refrigerator, and they're scraping the ceiling on that porch that hadn't been scraped and had paint hanging down. It's going to look great. That'll be finished next week, and we will be showing it as often as possible to get it rented. But it did need a lot of cleanup, but they're almost there. And we did replace refrigerators, so it's a really lovely property for somebody to rent. But now it's they just need a couple more days, Jake told me. In addition to that, we had a roofer come by. John Welsh and I met with this gentleman. One of the things we talked about in number 8, Timor Park Road, is the fact that roof could cost $250,000 to $350,000. Tom Harvey I think when he said it while he was here, when you take the bid of the quote of $250 and you add prevailing wages, it could be $350 and all that. So we were talking about more than, because we're focusing on the house at number 11 has got to be renovated. Let me turn this off. So we're trying to grapple with a lot of things here, and we brought a roofer over who's been working on barns forever and very classic houses and all this stuff. And he's got 45 years in the business. He's quite good.
Really knows his stuff.
And he just finished a building over in the town of Washington, so he comes highly regarded. A lot of people in Unionville seem to know him. His name is Bob Turner. And he came over and he looked at the roof and he said, I'm actually a very frugal guy. I think you guys can get 3 to 5 years more out of that. He goes, I'm going to bring my ladder. He's coming in this weekend to throw a ladder up against it and then to go and walk it, and he'll give us a report, tell us what he thinks next week. But he talked about, we showed him where the holes were. Fixing the holes is not going to be a problem. Doing the flashing, he said the gutters are terrible. We've got household gutters on a barn. They've got to be 6-inch half rounds.
5-inch half rounds.
Okay.
He recommended, yeah.
Yeah,
Which is what we used to
6.
have.
Oh, it was, okay. And then there's some areas that Jake knows that are very specific that he's going to look at over the weekend, and then he's going to tell us what his thoughts are. I discussed it with Tom Harvey, and he said, wow, once he's walked it, if you can get 3 or 5 more years. John came over and we were with him, and I guess our thought was, well, if we could get 3 to 5 more years out of that, then we could put money aside and we wouldn't be...
Yeah, we wouldn't be pressed for cash.
Yeah, or borrowing money for a roof that's going to cost a fortune. We could put the money aside each of the next 3 years. And he said, if you get a hole in it, I'll be right over to patch it. He goes, I could have fixed those for you right away. So anyway, I think he's a great guy to come and look. He'll look over the weekend and we'll talk again. But did I miss anything? That was pretty much what he said, right?
Yeah. He said some of the roof is fairly decent. Some of it can go longer than others, but overall, it wasn't an immediate need to replace
He
it.
said you could, it needs to be, he said the black algae's gotta come off.
Yeah,
You know,
if
there's
you
a spray that you put on.
Wash it off.
He said you gotta get that done. And he made some very good suggestions, but it's not $350,000 worth. And if it can buy us some time, and we put money aside for the next 3 years, that would be good for us. We don't know yet. Tom Harvey thought it was a great idea, but boy, if he goes up there and looks, and he can tell you that, he goes, I think that's a great plan,
So Tom Harvey's going to cease putting that bid package together.
He stopped putting the bid package in until we hear from this, but his guys had already come on over and done the survey, which will only be helpful for Bob. He's going to print out some copies.
Okay.
And so we'll share the information with Tom Harvey when we get it, and we'll have a discussion about it.
Okay.
Okay? All right, any other questions about that? So we had the roof looked at just to get another opinion before we put it out to these exorbitant bids. We had an architect come in on Thursday? Tuesday. We had an architect come in on Tuesday to look at the number 11, because if we renovate aspects of it, we can get, and you guys, Steve, you're good at, you guys, all three of you are good at this, but the thought was that whoever is going to do the work would like to have plans. So we had an architect come in and look, and Dave and I walked the architect, she.
Yeah, you forgot to bump on her.
That's right, you had to go down the basement and bump your head, you had to move all the spiders. So we looked all around. He was being very gallant, and he was moving the spiders, and he walked, he's so much taller, he banged the head. So, yeah, but we got down there, and that floor has been reinforced down there. There were almost 18 or 19 metal poles.
We spent a lot of money on that about 10 years ago.
She was very impressed
Yeah.
that had been done on a house that age. So that was actually a good thing. But took a lot of pictures and a lot of notes, and then is going to come back to us with what their thoughts are. And we had a contractor go over last week also, and I haven't gotten the proposal back yet, to fix the dormers so they're not leaking. I could see that they had closed them, they had scraped some wood, they were pushed closed, there was tape on them. They removed the plastic from the outside, but you could see where they were trying to figure out. So anyway, we'll hear from that person quickly too. And get the leaks stopped, and then we'll wait for the other proposal. So both of those should happen really quick.
It might not hurt to have the roof guy look at the dormers over there as well. I mean, it's the same type of work.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
the roof is leaking.
Because it could be the flashing around the dormers.
When that house is done, that roof is going to have to be done. That's what the architect
I
said.
think that roof is going to be an inexpensive roof to repair. I was up there with Betsy, and yeah.
Well, it's just
It is.
replace it. She said you have to go down to the plywood. I mean, it's the surface, you have to go all the way down.
Oh, yeah, you always gotta go
It's
down.
so old that it's like wrinkling.
It's going to be a project.
Yeah, but it'll be a beautiful finish when it's finished, because we're finally going to get it renovated. But I can text the roofer and ask him to do that. But, John said, we have a lot of roofs to look at here. Why don't you, he said, why don't you stick around, and then you can move your office here. Look at all of them while you're here. But we'll send him over there to look at that.
We did mention it, though, about the dormers there when he was there.
Yeah, it's the same
So,
type of work. I mean,
I don't know if he's going to look this weekend. when he
incorporated
comes,
with,
but,
it wouldn't be a bad idea
But
to
you're
have
right.
him look at those too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good. All right, and I believe,
He also looked at our chimney over at the barn complex, the old
that
brick
was
chimney.
interesting, yeah.
It was used for years and years for when we had an oil burner in the basement under the senior center, but oil burner was removed 2 years ago and was switched to gas, so it's no longer being used. So and the top, say 18 inches, the bricks are kind of hurting, so he recommended we shorten the height of it and point up what's there and cap it and leave it for potential future use if we need it or
It's
anything.
got that metal,
got a
metal piece,
rod
rod.
reinforcing it, yeah.
He said it's great from right above the rod down,
Yeah,
but above that, it needs to be repointed and all this work, so he said, why don't we just take those bricks off and cap it?
yeah.
It's very well reinforced, but why spend the money to repoint it? We're not going to use it. So he said, let's just take them off. He said, I'll take them off for you, and we'll cap it.
Well, I'm wondering if we have somebody up there doing that, why don't we shorten the chimney so it's below the roof level, and you eliminate a source of leak at the
Well,
same time?
He's going to look at the flashing and redo it. That's a good question, but I got the impression from him, from all of his years in that business, he said they always come back and wish they hadn't done it.
Yeah,
They always say,
and
I
it's not
wish.
leaking around the chimney.
It's the other one,
Yeah.
it's the cupola.
Well, It's an old roof and it doesn't leak
Yeah,
out.
no, it's a common point for roofs to start leaking, and if that's something that we can eliminate,
Yeah.
that's future problems. And if we got somebody up there already doing that work, it wouldn't be much more to have them take it the rest of the way down. It would be an additional expense then to fill in the hole that it leaves, but you would eliminate a potential problem for the future by doing that.
His only caution was people sometimes say, 10 years
They regret
later,
it.
why did they do that? Because now we could have opened up that wall and had a nice fireplace. I don't know.
Well,
He said, that's always what
this is
happens.
the senior center we're talking about.
Yeah.
You're not gonna put a wood stove in there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, we'll look into it for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely something to talk about when we get all the information. And looking at it, it's, I agree.
I don't think the chimney can be below the roof line.
If it isn't used, it's not a chimney anymore.
Well,
But
it's way
technically-
above-
It's out of service.
way above the
It's an
roof line.
out-of-service
I
chimney.
thought the purpose of doing this work was so that possibly in the future it could be used in
Yep. I mean, I think we would probably maybe save a little money just because he's going to,
Bob's good, he's a Bob, whatever you say.
Yeah.
He's got to come to me first. He's got a $2 garage.
well, we'll see who's
We'll get in
going to
line.
Yeah, we'll buy it.
flip that. He is in demand, you're right about that. In my general updates, I just have to mention this one thing because it was I have no way of communicating. So here, this is under my communication, under the town super. I got an anonymous letter, and the letter is to,
To me, that's for the
Yeah,
ratified.
I don't care
If
much
they don't want to
for,
put their name
I
on it.
don't care much for
then it's not
anonymous
listed.
letters.
it's not negative, I think it's
Regardless.
a learning experience. No, this has to do with a horse boarding permit. And George and I looked at it, and basically, I want this person to know that there is no provision for double security fence in our code, and our code does permit somebody to have up to 10 horses in their own yard if they want. And this person was complaining about that, but I just wanted to make sure, since we can't communicate, the return address was 249 Duncan, they were very concerned about this horse ownership and manure and all that,
Well, they
and
should come in and
also,
talk to George.
yeah. But it looks like the complaint, the person was ill-informed about the complaint. They were not well-meaning, it was a very nice letter, but they were misinformed about the town code. So if you do have specific questions, I think your neighbor is in the right, but if you want more information,
Yeah, and they
come
can
by.
look at the code online if they want.
Yeah, that's true. All right.
Right?
Well, since I can't get a hold of them, I wanted to mention that.
It's an acreage requirement.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. This meets it, it's fine. That wasn't in the letter, it was the other stuff.
I don't know. It's a woman.
And the last thing I wanted to remind everybody of is that we have a very big heat advisory this weekend on Saturday and Sunday, and Dave and I were talking about during the winter when we had those storms, we had places for people to go. I have never had anybody call that needed help in the heat, but do you know of anybody that could need help in the heat? Is there,
Not offhand, but we have a pool, we have an air-conditioned
come in, we should.
facility down at the park, so.
Yeah, I'd hang out at that pool all weekend is what we're gonna advise everybody to do. Come by the pool.
Pool or the senior citizen center,
Yeah.
we can make sure that that's open and has air conditioning in it. Or something.
Well, I don't,
to bring it down.
if you think there's a need for that, why don't you call me and we'll
Yeah.
arrange it. Otherwise, there won't be anybody here. But the pool is open and staffed all weekend.
Yeah.
And it's a good place to hang out because it's,
If necessary, I'll volunteer to come down and open it. I mean,
well,
if we need,
if there's a need, people
If there's a need.
will, reach out.
because if there's any blackouts or brownouts,
Right,
I mean,
that
you
would
have,
be the issue.
you have people, seniors,
Right.
people with young children that might have to get that, it's not open,
Right.
plain and simple.
If that happens, we will all be in touch with one another and we will deploy as necessary, okay? Along with
Yeah.
the staff and everything, because we will have people here over the weekend. And we can make announcements through Union Vale Mail or on Facebook or whatever. Well, that's hard to get if you don't have the electricity, but
Yeah, they have phones.
we certainly, yeah. All right, so stay tuned, but everybody please be safe. That concludes my report, and I would like to, at this point, ask for board member reports. Councilwoman Kelly, did you have anything you wanted to say?
I actually do not have anything.
Okay, Councilman Frazier?
I have this program that we got from NYMER, offered for training, reasonable suspicion training for supervisors. What it pertains to is whether or not your employees might be under the influence of drugs or alcohol. It will go into the legal aspects of that, as well as how to identify that there might be a problem, and then what to do if there is reasonable suspicion that you have an employee that might be having an issue. So, sounds like a good thing for department heads to be attending.
Great, we'll distribute that, make sure they all are aware, and board members that want to go. Thank you very much. Councilman McMorris?
No, I went to one class on solar, and I've been looking a lot into climate smart communities, but I think we're going to talk about that under the...
Yeah, it's on the new business.
And you have-
And then I have the report from George as far as the vehicle goes, and it needs a little bit of body work, which he's going to take care of. New brakes,
This is the constable
The constable,
car along with
Constable, the Explorer, the
the
Ford
town-owned
Explorer.
Ford Explorer, yeah.
It needs brakes again?
It needs brakes, and there's a recall
Metal,
from
metal.
Ford.
Wow, we spent an awful lot on brakes just 2 years ago on that vehicle. I'm shocked. Where is it getting done this time?
B-Wise? Okay, and the
Because that was
recall
like
is being-
800 last time.
And the recall is being done by Ford.
How many miles, do we know how many miles are on the vehicle?
Well, but we know it's paid off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good
Yeah, no,
thing.
I'm just concerned about the brakes wearing out as
we
quickly
bought
as they
everything
are.
new 2 years ago,
Yeah.
everything. Rotors, pads, maybe even calipers.
That there may
I'll
be a
look up,
problem
we look
with
up the dates and the time, and,
with the way the brakes are working.
but we're going to, it sounds like a different person this time, a different company than what they used last time.
No, last time it was B-Wise.
Oh, it was? I thought it was Precision.
Oh, no.
That's for the body work.
Body work
Oh,
only.
Precision
Brakes,
does body work.
yeah.
And it's not saying that there was any,
Yeah.
that they were put in incorrectly, it's just that we need to look at and see what the issue might be. If, in 2 years' time, I
Yeah.
can't see that we're putting a lot of miles
No,
on
we're
that
not.
car in
Yeah,
2 years'
right.
You
time.
just have 6 different people driving, maybe it's,
Yeah, but even
If
so,
he-
you drive
if
here to
he's
Burbank
bringing-
once a day, it's
It's not a lot.
not.
If he's bringing the vehicle down to Ford for a recall,
I'd rather have them do it.
I'd rather have them, I know my own car, huh?
we took it over there today.
Oh,
We can have them look at it, though.
Because I know my own car, I bring it down to Ingersoll all the time because, number one, I find it's cheaper,
yeah, and they do a good job with it.
and they know what they're doing. Their mechanics are all certified
Right.
on those vehicles.
Yeah,
Well, I will ask George, both Georges, George Treadwell and George Cole, because they kind of co-manage this situation. Get some information, I'll send it out to you.
Okay.
I don't know what we spent, but we should get exact numbers and when, so we know. Okay? Thank you. Councilman Welsh?
Yeah. All right, I'd like to bring up this Rebuilding Together Dutchess County Home Repair application. This application came out very recently. This is for homeowners, and it's for rebuilding for owner-occupied homes. And it's an application for next year. The application period is from June 1st to September 30th for possible consideration of service in 2020. This is the time when we accept applications and verify homeowner qualifications. Rebuilding Together Dutchess County staff will review your repair application and determine if you are qualified for our services. Qualification means that you meet our income and home ownership requirements. This does not mean you have been selected to receive services. If you do not qualify, you receive notification. If you do qualify, you will receive notification from a staff member. Now, it says, unfortunately, not all homes can be selected. The organization is funded through sponsorships and grants from the community, and Rebuilding Together Dutchess County must base the number of homes completed on the funds available to us. Once all qualified homeowners have had their homes previewed and/or inspected, we will review all the applications and select the homes to be repaired. For small-scale repair services, the selection period is year-round. Large-scale repair services will be determined to take place on the April and October service days in 2020, and these decisions are made by the end of February of 2020. When and if an opportunity arises to have repairs completed at your home, a staff member will contact you to discuss this process and the anticipated time frame as well as the work will be completed. If you have any questions, please call the Rebuilding Together Dutchess County Home Repair people at Dutchess County. I have an application copy.
You know, we could put it on the web.
Yeah, if you could put it on the web, it would be ideal. It's several pages. Of course, they need to know income and other key bits of information
We could make copies for people too. Thanks.
so that they can make the proper decision.
Can you put an 11 time off?
We should, if you know anybody that needs, it's like left a house or aspects of a house in disrepair, that you please encourage them to call and to do this, because it's like a Habitat for Humanity just in Dutchess County.
Yeah, it's a very localized
It's
type
a
of thing.
localized, neat thing, and volunteers from all the towns help.
Yeah, they do a nice
So it's a
job.
wonderful local thing, and if you know any of our residents that need this, let's encourage them to, they can come in here and we'll help them fill it out, or they can get help from these people on the phone.
Yeah, and
Hi. I just wanted to let you know, the Beekman Library, actually, we got the same information, and we have a program set up with them in September. I'm not certain of the date, but if people are interested in learning more about it before they apply, they can come to the program at the library.
okay, good.
Will the program also help them work on the application if they need help?
Yes, it's not a library program, it's somebody from the organization.
Right, they're just
that will become-
taking the community room or something?
That's clear.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you. Okay, I think that concludes our board
Any
member.
information that money from the county on fixing up zombie homes?
Can we have this during the open session,
Yeah,
please?
hang on, we don't have anything like that. But let's get through this quickly, and then, yeah, hold that thought. Next up, we have a town highway superintendent report. He is not here this evening, but we did get a written report, and Councilman Frazier's going to share that with us.
Okay, starts out with responses to questions from the past meeting. Says that for the Phase 2 of the Time Warp parking lot, they installed 5 catch basins and 450 feet of pipe. Mallory Road reclamation date is now August 6th. Paving is the week of August 13th, weather permitting. Road edgings for Still, Manila, Quinlan, and Deer Pond will be done after the paving. The beavers On the Green have not been an issue, I guess, and are being left alone at this point. And Shaughnessy Road and Clove Valley Road site visibility, I guess that would be the site distance is the responsibility of Dutchess County Highway, and
That was on his report because Bob Balkine's staff took care of that this past Monday.
Right.
So they cut it back, so the visibility coming from Shaughnessy left and right,
right.
that was done.
Has a list of things that, that they did in the past month. They boom mowed edges of some of the town, replaced the brakes on truck 7, emergency sinkhole repair around a culvert in Tompkins Road, repaired a catch basin in Oak Brook, replaced 40 feet of rotted 42-inch culvert pipe, that's big pipe, repaired washouts in the park, repaired 2 catch basins on Breezy Hill, 5 bad basins on Cunningham, replaced the worn-out tracks on the excavator, had a tree company assist with 10 dangerous trees on Burbank Club, Wendy Drive, and South Parliament Road. Took truck 14 to the Freightliner dealer for warning lights and leaky seal, removed the chip box from truck 10, washed and greased the remainder of the trucks, cleaned the front shop, mowed and weed whacked every other week. Got truck 3 running for hauling material spoils on Mallory job, and installed 320 feet of drainage pipe on Mallory Road. Tom Harvey, the representative from the engineering firm, checked the work out and said it was all fine.
Good, he did. Tom Harvey is gonna, our engineer is gonna go look at the work at Mallory for every phase. And he was by there today and said they did a really good job, and he'll be by next week, and he'll keep us posted. So thank you very much for that. Now we have our town clerk report.
So the town of Unionville has now given birth to Twitter. And, for those of you that are not familiar with Twitter, it's a microblogging platform. It allows users to post things up to 140 characters. So the town will be utilizing this. Our handle is town_Unionvale. And we're going to be using it in the capacity for posting time-sensitive updates, such as departmental things, maybe camp has something to say. So everyone can view it, whether they have a Twitter account or not, but only users can respond to posts and post their own things. So hopefully it will be utilized, as necessary. And there's also some capability of it allowing messages to be sent via text. So maybe that's something we can explore for emergency reporting,
I
such
think
as...
that's a great idea, Andrea, because not a lot of people don't use Twitter, but more and more people are using it for the emergency thing, so you can get a message right to your phone.
Yeah.
So as we, our town clerk is in charge of all of our social media accounts. She is the vital keeper, she's the vital record keeper. And so you have all the passwords, she takes care of them, and other people have edit capability, but if they come and go, Andrea will be here in order to run them. And as we absorb how we're going to use Twitter, I think that's a great idea for going forward. Once we get a bunch of people on it.
users in it.
Just for emergencies and things, like senior centers open or whatever. So, anyway, thank you very much for that. I think that's great. We're fully engaged in social media now.
We're on everything.
All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. This is the wrong stage. I was going to give somebody else's report, but this is the time where we have public comments on agenda items. Did you have something on an agenda item?
I couldn't get any money about the zombie house one.
No. Mr. Kolb checked into all of that, and we don't really have very many of them. And he communicates with the banks regularly to get them cleaned up. Even the one, on Brosville got purchased recently. So that is no longer a zombie house. So he kind of manages it. We discussed it, and he said, his mission is to get rid of them by communicating with banks. And so, our mortgage taxes have gone down quite a bit. We are so tight in the housing market here in Unionville. When something comes on the market that's under $1 million or under $750, under $500, it's gone. So there haven't been that many zombie houses, and George has done his best to clean them all up by communicating with banks. So don't think there's much money there for us, but thank you for asking. Yep. Any other public comments on agenda items? Okay. Board, committee, commission, and council reports. Aki Bush is our new chair of the Conservation Advisory Council, and we told them nobody needed to come to this meeting tonight because we were just going to be going through some things we've done over before. She stopped into town hall today to tell me something fascinating to share with you, which was the CAC. One of the things they were looking at is that mile-a-minute vine that's all over,
Yes.
and some of the larger parcel town residents in the Clove area have also been quite concerned about it. So they had a meeting with the DEC, and the DEC is going to be releasing 4,000 boll weevils.
I don't know that the whole...
Well, that's what she called them. It's a weevil that eats mile-a-minute vine. It is USDA approved. It's not going to hurt anything. But they're going to be going all over. Boll weevils, they're from Alabama, right? But the weevils, I'm from Virginia, what do I know? But anyway, these weevils are going to hopefully attack this mile-a-minute vine and get rid of this invasive species.
He said they will not kill it totally because they want to have some left to eat here at the but let's hope it
It's going to help. It's got to definitely help. And they'll keep us posted, which I think is interesting. So that we'll get some sort of data, and research.
will be on top.
Oh, yeah,
So do they capture them when it's done and take them out, or they just,
I think they hang out here from
Hang
now
out.
on. They're going to be Clove Valley weevils.
There'll be another
Well, if
year.
there's food, they'll hang around.
Yeah.
So make sure your cotton clothes are,
But maybe they'll help manage it. They'll just help manage it. So, interesting though. Departmental reports. Well, I have I'll give the recreation. Athletics, they're doing great work down there with the kids with the lacrosse and the t-ball. That looks like the kids and the parents are having a great time. The swimming pool is a lovely, I think, atmosphere down there with Michael Cookingham as the director, who reports to Shelley Knight, who's our summer overall camp director. We did have an incident yesterday where a camp counselor dove into the pool and hit his head on the bottom of the pool, and they worked so well on it though. They called an ambulance. The ambulance came and got him. Our good old Union Bell EMS crew. Carlos was there before the ambulance got there because he had
Oh, yeah, he's fast, yeah.
He's really quick, and he's in the parking lot. So Carlos was over there, and they took this young man out in an ambulance and took him to Vassar Hospital. And then they notified me, and I got on the phone and did the reporting that I'm supposed to do. So it worked beautifully. They had it all down. The guy is so tall, this is what I hear, he's so tall that when he dove in from the deep end, he kind of went all the way to that part that was inclining up. And they did a head scan when he got to Vassar. They didn't even give him stitches. They sent him home. They said he was fine and he was at work
good.
today.
Great.
But anyway, it was a close call. It was a nice emergency
Practice
prep.
run.
Dry run.
Yeah, it was definitely a dry run. Thank God the young man was. And his parents were at the hospital, and our camp director, Shelley Knight, followed the ambulance.
Oh, very nice.
Everything ended up
Done
being
properly.
fine, but thank you you please tell the fire department
Okay,
and EMS
yeah.
that we were really pleased.
All right.
We have a brainstorming session scheduled on the 25th of July. Jake and I have organized it with a group of the recreation people and anybody else that would like to come. And it's going to be down in recreation, and it's to discuss the calendar that I distributed to the town board. We're going to be talking about events, things that the people want to put on for next year. Because we want to get everybody's brainstorming what they want to do next year for their departments before we start our budget discussions in August. So that is an open invitation.
And what date is that?
The
25th,
25th at 11 a.m.
a week from today.
Yeah, it's just a few of the staffers and any of you that would like to come. Oktoberfest, Sunday, September 22nd, noon to 6. Be there.
Oh, it's only going to 6 this year?
It always goes to 6.
Yeah.
7.
Really?
Always went to 7 o'clock.
Well, then it's 7. I mean, I'm probably typed it wrong.
All right,
It
well,
was on the flyer.
I don't mind, I'm just saying. It always
Brad
went
will
till
be there
7.
until as long as they're there.
Okay.
So, but it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun and it's going to be extremely well organized. I'm
Maybe
sure
it's
Matt's
no
whatever last year's was.
Okay.
So starting at noon, all the way through, all day long, it should be great. We have a municipal grant that we received from the Hudson Valley Greenway, as I announced already. I have Dutchess County Planning. We have not been thrilled with the planners that we've been talking about and it's hard to get a good recommendation for a planner. So now I have, very nicely, Owen Rafter is going to send me a list of a large group of planners, because he's not in a position to, he's not allowed to recommend
Recommend
one.
per individual, yeah.
So we're going to be going through that process. It's not a big job, but it's an important job for us. So
yeah.
we'll but we need to find the right person for us. So that's in the works with his help. Would anybody here like to describe what's going on with the cell tower project in Timeware Park, or would you like me to give the residents we've worked very hard on this for 2 months.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
or 10 months, but I mean,
I would say a few things. First of all, we were approached by the tower company based on a engineering and scientific analysis in the area and the need for a new tower, an additional tower to cover some dead area and also handle the ever-increasing volume in Beekman and the south end, LaGrange and the south end of Unionville. So the best possible location happened to be off to Forest Lane in Timeware Park, in a wooded area, kind of an isolated area, and we reviewed the master plan for the town of Beekman, because that particular part of our park lies in the town of Beekman. It's not far over the line, but it is in the town of Beekman. Their comprehensive or master plan very specifically outlined that they had an interest in developing improved cell service throughout the town, and that they wanted any towers to try to be located, the preference would be in rural, low population area. So that fit perfectly. So we proceeded with public advice to our public, to Beekman Planning, Beekman Town Board. Beekman Town Board reviewed all the paper we sent them. We sent them everything we received, and they passed it on to their planning board. Their planning board reviewed it, and because we're both municipalities, their planning board was aware that we could handle it just as well as they could, so they delegated our town board to handle all the planning and the implementation of the project, which is very normal. So that was done. As we're proceeding, we find out at the 11th hour when it's going to the state, because it is in parkland, that parkland remediation is required. Alienation is required. The state has to vote that, as they did with this building being in parkland, that small piece of property could be used for the cell tower because it is in what's considered park property. Unfortunately, the Beekman supervisor wrote a letter to the state with very negative comments about the project, and the state declined to hear our bill to install the tower. So without the state approval, it's on a standstill, right?
Right, now, where it stands right now is that the Senate and the Assembly were moving forward on the bill, and then the Senate decided, because the town supervisor from Beekman wrote a letter saying she was against it, they didn't want to pit two senators together, so they asked that the two senators get the two supervisors together and find out what the problem is and solve the problem. And I'm still at a loss because I don't know what the problem is, because when they move the tower, if they don't put the tower there, they're going to put it somewhere else in Beekman with a lot more people, maybe at their library or someplace that wouldn't be so popular. But they'll be able to force it that time because the FCC will permit them to force it. So I find it, I still don't understand it, but we're still talking. We asked the town supervisor in Beekman to please, let's have a joint work session with their board to kind of walk through the issues. What part of the process didn't they like? Because the next place will be much more populated, and I don't think they want that. So we don't really know what the issues are, but the legislature is saying, bring it back to us. You've got a bill hanging here, bring it back and we'll put it through again. So we're working through the issue. But it was an awful lot of work. It was 10 months work, very hard work on the board, and then our greater team with Homeland Towers, our legal team, and the engineers and all those consultants. It was a lot of work, and early on we were told by Beekman to please proceed. So we got some mixed signals there.
Especially when their comprehensive plan outlined a location which sounded very much like where it was going to be located.
Well, and Beekman's also in their code, they prefer municipal land. They say for cell towers, they'd like you to start at municipal property. So we're still trying to get to the bottom of that, but we've got some more time, and we'll keep working on it, and hopefully we'll have that joint session with them, and we can all ask them, and they can tell us what their thoughts are. But ultimately, it will get solved, and there will be cell tower service there, either in our park or somewhere in the greater part of Beekman where, a lot more people will see it. So we'll keep you posted, those of you at home, but it will be happening. So one way or the other, because the FCC, as the Department of Planning in Dutchess County says, the state treats cell tower companies like utilities. The next place they pick, they're going to get that spot, and the FCC can force it no matter where it is. So I don't know.
I think Homeland Security gets involved in it too, because they don't want any of those dead areas.
Right.
Because of emergency services.
Yeah, that's another factor.
Emergency services depend on cell more than they do Wi-Fi than they do on the radio.
Yeah.
They made that clear to us, but that message didn't get through to Beekman. I don't know why, but I think they're going to fix Route 55, so that's how, and then they're going to go over and fix 82. And I know Verizon is one client, but there are others behind them. They want the area fixed.
Properly covered.
Yeah, and Chuck Schumer called for it in 2015. They're just still working on it.
Yeah, he was very critical of Dutchess, and we're trying to come up to
Yeah.
his level of cell service.
So it will happen, it's just a matter of time. So, but I think we owe it to our residents to keep posted because nobody in Unionville was against the project, so we want them to know what's going
Especially
on.
since the money was going to help support
Right,
Landmark.
right, that's right.
Yeah.
Which is a big thing, right. Well,
big
I mean,
thing.
just not just the roof, but, maintaining the property, maintaining the trails,
Yep.
Offset tax.
offset
revenue.
tax.
No, absolutely. It's a big deal. So the next one up is Furnace Pond Dam. I have spoken to our engineering firm, and they are in the middle of writing our report. They haven't finished it yet. They don't want us to be concerned about the way the Fishkill Creek looks right now after the failure at McKinney Pond. They're saying there's some other, just give it a little more time. It also it's worse when there's not a lot of flow. And it's been a little quiet, although it rained all day today. And they said, just give it a little more time and don't get so concerned. They are going to come back. They're going to look at our property again when they come to look at McKinney Pond, and then they'll finish our report. They haven't finished one piece of the analysis. But I said our budget season starts in August, and we need, the report, and we want to know what our maintenance plan is going to be for next year and how we're going to do it. And anyway, they're terrific. They're really sharp. I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say. But we'll have to deal with whatever it
Yeah,
is.
right.
Kind of fingers crossed. That's a big project for us, and it's an important one. Solar development on Route 55. I don't really think there's anything we need to say about this. We had a great meeting with them, looking at the site plan, because they haven't finished it yet. We're devoting our August 15th meeting to them. So we will send this out. If they get all their stuff done, which is a finalized site plan, because they were doing a little more research, we were going to have a public hearing at the beginning of our August 15th meeting, and then we'll have a regular board meeting, and they'll be there. So let's wait and talk about the solar development then. We've already talked about MS4, our audit.
Yes.
Okay. So now we'll get to new business, excessive speeding on Unionville roads.
The only remedy is to ask that state police and sheriff's department do enforcement.
I agree.
Yeah, is there
You're
one
absolutely right.
That's all we can do is request that they
Yep.
enforce the speed limits.
And I think we have been in touch with the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office is waiting for a date. They do want to put a few of those signs up, the electronic ones that say, the speed limit's 30 and you're going 85, like they do on Chestnut Ridge. They do want those, and then they are going, as soon as this circle is finished, we're going to have a sheriff or a state trooper somewhere along there, probably at the base, to remind the people coming down the mountain they have to adhere to that speed limit. The people on the north and south are going to have much better sight lines the way they're creating it.
Yeah.
But if those guys are going 80, and that was what the member of the fire department who called me, that was his only concern, is they're going to have a straight run and they might be speeding. We're going to have sheriff department people there as often as we can to make sure they know that they have to go the speed limit. They have to check their brakes on their way down in the winter too. But we're going to not have all those near misses that we're having when people were coming around and not stop giving the guys coming down the mountain right away. They weren't doing that anymore. So, you got to pick your poison almost. But we're going to use enforcement there. Near where Mary Jane Calvi lived on Chestnut Ridge, it's horrible, which is how she got plowed into. Canby Road, I get numerous complaints about Canby Road, so we're going to have to start making our roads safer for our residents. It's
Those
just
are all
awful.
county.
Yeah, Old County.
But
They're fine with it. They
Yeah.
want us to request it. I told them I'd send, I'd requested it with Kirk Imparati, and he's going to put them wherever we think we need them.
Great.
So, but we need to start enforcing it. So, anyway, thank you, Steve. That's exactly what we're going to do. Now, 12.2, discussion, establishing a climate-smart community task force. The good news is, you gave some information to the CAC, and the CAC is now saying they're going to read it.
they're going to read it, and they're going to consider joining in on the task force. The whole object of the task force, and there's 2 pages of projects that they have.
Well, let's just cut to the quick there. I think the CAC said to me that they were going to review all the
Right.
climate smart, and they're going to come back to the town board with a recommendation.
Right.
That was their thought. Is that right?
Yeah, well, whether or not they're going to join, yes.
And also,
Absolutely.
if they were, what projects they think the town might want to look at.
Right. But the projects in climate smart communities go anything from renovation of the buildings to
Cooling, we talked
Cooling.
about cooling sheds or something.
cooling stations.
Stations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All this is involved in it. Even roads are involved in it. Watershed, it's a big conglomerate, really. The county is very much involved in it. I know Pleasant Valley is part of the county committee.
Yeah, I
County
saw that
task
list,
force.
yeah.
We are listed as a climate smart community because we sent in that pledge in June, I believe it was?
A year ago, yeah.
A year ago, June.
Yeah.
And we have a password to get into their system, but the amount of information that they can provide us with, from planning to zoning to roads, is amazing.
My own view is that we have some revenue-generating projects on our plate that are very complicated, like solar, cell towers, renovation of that house. We've got a lot of stuff that it is terrific that the CAC is willing to read that material and come back to us with their recommendation. And they can distill it, and they can say, this is a good idea, this probably isn't a good, and then the board can listen to them and be thankful that they were willing to put in the time. I think it's wonderful that they're willing to do that. And then
Oh,
we
I
can see
agree.
what they say.
I agree, but I mean, there's also information in here for the planning board, the zoning board, building department, and most of the stuff in the building department we've already done. A lot of the projects that are involved with climate smart communities, we've already done. And some of the stuff, like I know the county is working on greenhouse gas inventories, and we almost have our greenhouse gas inventory done in the town between Jake and myself.
So, but I just don't care about the county right now. I mean, no, I don't mean that in a
Right.
negative
Well, I
way, but
mean-
I feel like we have so much to do for our own people here. Could we move out to the county later and do it?
Well, it's, the problem with moving out to the county later, and
I really don't know. I'm asking.
being involved with the county means only one person has to go into those county meetings. It isn't where the whole,
What benefit do we get out of it?
better funding. It puts you in a better position for funding. They say that right in their whole thing. Not just in the county, but in the state, even from the EPA and the DEC.
Just be careful what you wish for. You know, George has to go to those MS4 meetings. All he got out of it was an audit, so you better watch it.
Right, but again, MS4 and things that
I know, I'm just
would
kidding.
revert to MS4 are also covered under these projects that they have. So that it just gives us more, it gives us an access to more information. A lot of it with land use. I know we have that project, I know the planning board is looking at that project at Cross Orchards. And information on that for the land use, what to look at in the land use for that, because it's going to require, if I'm not mistaken, a zoning change.
Yep.
All that is covered by this.
Covered in what way, Dave? We have a
With-
lawyer, we have an engineer, we have consultants, so
Some of
will
this,
we use a planner for our master plan who will probably be able to ask them to weigh in? I mean, we have a lot of-
this deals with master plans, comprehensive plans, everything, and it just gives you a greater knowledge resource, a greater resource for getting information. You're taking the stuff that other communities have done, that the state has done, the county
So
has
the other
done.
thing we can do, I mean, here, let's let the CAC come back to us. And the other thing we can do is actually, if you have a link or something, a lot of that information, if it's land use oriented, if you could send it to Joan, she will distribute it to the two land use boards and let them go in and take a look and see if they see topics in there that would be of interest to them. That's a fine idea. I mean, but other than that, I feel like I'm not prepared to do anything unless the CAC comes back after doing a lot of research. I don't have time to do that research right now, so it's nice that
Well,
they're
I
going
mean,
to share it with us.
well, that's it.
Is that what you want us to
You don't have time to do it, and the more we put this off, the less money will be available to us.
But what are we putting off exactly? Because I still don't,
I'd rather get...
what decision do you want us to...
I'd rather get started with appointing a coordinator and let him start or her start trying to get together a group of people that would be willing
task
to work
force.
on a task force.
Yeah.
So I talked to Aki about that, and she did say to me, would you let us take a look at it next month,
Sure.
and then have you guys, and then come back and tell you what we think? And I said, we'd be happy to wait one more month. I mean,
But I don't think they're really going to want to get involved with a lot of the stuff that's in this. You know, they're not going to be dealing with the planning board. They're not going to be dealing with the zoning board.
I remember...
Which is why you try and get a member from the planning board, a member from the zoning board. Not the whole group, just a member so that they can go through it and say, hey, you know, we could do this and let's take a look at it. But if they don't have the information, I mean, the whole idea of a task force is to bring everybody together.
Okay, because we've got so much on our agenda, we can tell them to finish it. I'd like to make a motion that we make Dave McMorris our coordinator for the task force and let you work on this between now and when the CAC is, and then you can all come back and tell us if you think it's going to fly. You know, would you be
I'll
willing
be willing
to?
to do that.
All right, then I will second your motion.
Okay, all in favor of making Dave McMorris our task force coordinator? Yeah.
Question. So is it just for Dave to work with the CAC now to go through all the finer points so they understand it? Or is it for Dave to start recruiting a task force?
Well, the CAC, that's a good question. The CAC said they'd analyze it and come back to us and recommend if they thought we should have a task force. So I think that's important, and you could work with them, and if collectively you think it's the good next step, then Dave, you could try to recruit planning board and zoning board. You may not get any interest from anybody.
I know.
That's the truth. At least you'll work on it for a while, and you'll come back and tell us if it's a no-go. Does that make sense? Because what if nobody wants to be on a task force?
Yeah, but do we need to appoint a coordinator if a task force doesn't get, I mean, Dave can go and talk, go to the zoning board meeting, go to the planning board meeting and talk to them, but do...
As an advocate without being...
Yeah, does he need the name coordinator to do that? No, because any one of us could walk into those.
But aren't we supposed to
Well,
establish
He needs to be a coordinator if he wants to get extra
There are-
information from
for the grant.
the
There are
source.
two
I thought you said he
mandatory
already
things,
has it.
there are two mandatory things that have to be done to be part of Climate Smart's community.
Yeah.
One is to establish a task force,
Yeah.
the other is to have a coordinator. Those two have to be done. Then there are other
understand.
priority
We're kind of
features that
doing it
they have.
reverse.
We're kind of doing it,
But
you know,
you want the opportunity to
they're both
recruit.
in the number one priority. I've got it here.
No, it's there. It did say
Yeah.
you have to establish one of each.
Right, I understand that, I guess
I
I'm
mean,
just unclear
The
of...
Karina's,
It could actually be done with just establishing a coordinator, the way I
Dave
read
is
it.
interested in the subject.
Yeah,
And
okay.
we don't know if anybody beyond that and a couple people on the CAC are, so I think it's a,
I mean, we were
Why
talking
don't you
about,
try?
yeah, we're talking
Right.
about solid waste disposal, and there's a whole
right.
section on solid waste disposal.
So you're interested, give it a shot, and then come back and tell us if you think it's gonna go or not. And if it's too soon, we'll try again next year. I mean, that's all we can do if people aren't interested. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. All in favor of choosing, making Dave McMorris, Councilman McMorris, our Climate Smart Community Task Force Coordinator, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? I think that was unanimous.
New title for you, Dave.
Okay, Dave, good luck.
The salary.
Motion carries. Let us know how it works. Not August, but maybe in September, because in August, the CAC is going to work. And why don't you take between now, take between August and September, and then come back and tell us how you think it might work, okay?
Okay.
That'd be great. Thank you very much. Okay, I believe we are at the section of our agenda.
Yeah, we
where
just did the
can approve
resolution.
budget
Yeah.
adjustments and pay our bills. May I have a motion to pay all of our bills, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of paying the bills?
Aye.
Aye. Bills will be paid on Tuesday. Public comment on town issues? Any other public comments? All right. Next scheduled meeting, we are not having a work session, taking a kind of a little summer break. We will see everybody for the August, the third week in, the third Thursday for the
15th of August.
focus on our solar development. I will email you if for some reason their schedule is delayed. I'll let you know if they want
All
to.
right.
But otherwise, that's what we're shooting for. All right, we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Great, all in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. Okay, not bad.
Considering these
Bothering me today.
Is it really?